welcome to my familia homeschool. If it's your first time here today, my name is Marissa. I live with my husband William and my two daughters Abby and Ellie in Miami, Florida. We are a family that has chosen homeschool as the way that we plan to educate our girls. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that's a bit more controversial. There's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of thoughts about this topic. We're going to be talking about technology in our homeschool. Now, I wouldn't tag us as a family that is extremist in the way that we approach technology. We're not a family that has thrown all of the tablets outside of the window. We're not a family that has said no TV ever. But we definitely are a family that has chosen to lessen our use of technology within our homeschool and within our family in general. There have been seasons within our family life where we have used technology more often, where I've used TV to keep my girls busy more often. And during those seasons, I have seen the effect of that on my girls, and I haven't liked it. We've all heard about the worries or the possible effects of use of technology on young children. We've heard about how it can affect their attention span, their activity level, their sleep quality, how it can cause behavioral and social issues, how it can affect their social skills, and of course, it can be a safety risk. There are some things that are really dangerous out there on the internet. After going through those times with my girls where I've noticed the effects of technology on them, I've noticed the effects of more time watching TV, which is really the only use of technology that they have available to them. I've seen the effects of that on them. We made the decision to lessen it. And after making that decision, I've seen a lot of benefit. When that option isn't available to them, they choose other things. This is really part of our way of life. So it's not something my girls ask for. They know the days and the times where they're allowed to watch TV, and outside of that, it's not really something they ask for. And they choose activities that are more beneficial to them. Activities where they are interacting with each other as sisters, where they're interacting with us as parents. Activities where they're playing, where they're making connections, where they're putting into practice things that we've been learning during the day. When that option is not available, they choose things that are more productive, things that are a better use of their time. So kind of the specific limits that we've placed within our family is that our girls are allowed to watch TV on Wednesday evenings. On Wednesday evenings, I have a meeting with our church. We have a Zoom Bible study, and so during that time, they're able to watch a little bit of TV. Sometimes they also watch a little bit of TV on the weekend. But the key is we're the ones that choose what they watch. My girls don't really even know the concept of pointing to something on the TV and saying, watch this. They know mom already has a playlist of things that we can watch. Mom chooses, and that's what we watch, and they're okay with that. I'm not a huge fan of the current kids shows. I've heard a lot of information about the tactics that these companies, that these people that make these TV shows use to make their TV shows addictive to kids, and I don't like that. I don't like the idea of anyone trying to control my kids psychologically. So a lot of stuff that I allow my girls to watch are either videos that are related to something that we're learning within our homeschool, usually science, or older TV shows. So we love Little Bear. A lot of those shows, those older shows, there's one about an elephant and there's one about a turtle. I can't think of the names right now, but all those shows that are they were kind of older when I was a kid, but they're slow, they're real life, and I feel like they're more beneficial for my girls, and they're safe. There's nothing that's gonna come up on those shows that I'm not gonna be comfortable with. So on Wednesdays, when they're allowed to watch some TV, I have a playlist made of some videos about what we're learning in science. So right now we're learning about eating, about food, about nutrition, about digestion. And so we go through these different topics, we read different books, and I have different videos that they're able to watch about that. And it's something that they're okay with. They like it. They're used to it as part of their way of life. They don't ask me to watch these other shows that a lot of other kids watch. They're okay with watching their science videos because that's just the way we do it. That's our family flow. One thing that we don't do within our homeschool is we don't use educational websites. We don't use educational apps. I've seen a lot of them out there. There's a lot of really good options, but it's not something that I want to start just yet. And I want to hold it off as long as possible. I want our learning to remain as book focused, as paper focused, as long as possible. And I know it's important for kids to learn how to use technology, but my girls are 5 and 2. We've got a lot of time to use that. We've got a lot of time to do that. I know how addicting it can be. I know how quickly it can suck you in, and I want to hold off on that battle as long as I can. Another thing that we don't do in our family is we don't have any personal use devices for our kids. So my girls don't have tablets. They don't hold or touch or use my cell phone. If we're ever out and about and I choose to let them watch a show, it's something that I touch, I put on, I select, and they just watch it. They know they don't touch it. That's not something that is for them to use. Our decision about that was kind of confirmed when we would go over to this family friend's house. We call her an aunt. She's really close to our family, and she had a tablet that she would let Abby use. It was like a special occasion thing, so we were okay with it and we would allow it. But we noticed how much harder it was for Abby to part ways with this device when it was something that she held in her hand. It was almost as if she developed a feeling of, this is mine and you're not allowed to take it away from me, when it was in her hands. We would notice breakdowns every time we would have to leave, and we didn't want a device to have that kind of control over her. A decision that we made early on when our girls were super little, when Abby was super little, is that we didn't want a device or technology to be our first line of defense. A lot of times in the short term, giving a kid a device is easy. It's a lot easier, especially when you're in social situations which are uncomfortable for kids, where they can't run free, where they can't do what they want, where they don't have freedom of movement, when we want them to be still in a chair. A lot of times handing them a device is the easy way to go. But we decided early on that we didn't want that to be our first line of defense. A lot of times when we're at a doctor's office, or maybe a restaurant, or maybe someone's home, and we just want to have a peaceful conversation, or at church, it's a lot easier to just hand kids a device, and it controls their behavior. It babysits them. It helps them to be still. But I wanted my kids to learn how to interact in situations where they have to have self-control without being controlled by a device. When I was little, we would go to church on Sunday nights, and there was no class for kids on Sunday night. So I had to learn to sit, to be quiet, to entertain myself quietly, and I did it successfully. So I knew that my girls could do it. When Abby was really little, she was 1.5 years before we moved here to Miami, we went to this church that we loved so much. It was such a rich church. They would have service on Sunday nights, and these services were really long, and they did not have childcare. We chose to take Abby to these services. We chose to have her inside. We chose to switch back and forth with my husband, and we chose not to put a device in front of her because we wanted her to learn how to be in that atmosphere. My girls through this have learned how to sit quietly at a doctor's office. They have learned how to entertain themselves with crayons and a coloring book in a church service, or while we're having a conversation, or at a restaurant. It's not that I expect them to sit there with nothing to do. There are activities that I bring with us, but I don't want a tablet or a cell phone or a video to be that activity, to be that thing that we rely on for our kids to be quiet. Because when we do that, we're not really teaching them self-control. We're teaching them that if mom wants me to be quiet and be still, I have to have a device in front of my face. I talked about this phrase before, this quote before, that I really love, and I think it applies to this situation as well. In a book that I read about parenting, written by Bill Johnson, he said this quote, and it really stuck with me. And I'm paraphrasing, I don't know the exact wording, but the idea behind it is that our kids will notice what we value by what we're willing to be uncomfortable in order to do. It's uncomfortable to go to a church service on Sunday night. It requires work, especially in those early years, but it's worth it. I want my kids to go to church and really be there. When they're behind a tablet, they're not really there. I want my kids to know how to interact at a doctor's office. I want my girls to know how to interact in situations where they're not always able to move their bodies, where they're not always able to be loud and rambunctious, where they have to sit, where they have to use self-control. So those are the decisions that we've made in our family. I was watching a video last week about this topic, and one thing that this mom said really stood out to me. She said, it's never too late to change your mind. And like I said, there have been periods in our life where our technology use has been a lot more. It's been something that we've depended on more, but we saw negative effects of that and we made a decision to change. And so if that's something that's on your heart, if you are feeling that maybe your technology use in your home isn't what you want it to be, I repeat what that girl said, what that that Mom said, it's never too late to change your mind. There's so many ways to approach technology within a family, and I'd love to know how it works within your family. What are some of the choices that you've made? What are some of the decisions that you've made? Some of the limits or boundaries that you've put up, or some of the ways that you've seen it be super beneficial with your family. Leave me a comment and let me know what your thoughts are, or find me on Instagram under My Familia Homeschool and send me a message. I love to hear your feedback. If this video was interesting or helpful in any way, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can join us next time on My Familia Homeschool.